Radio MD.
RadioMD.com.
This is Melanie Cole's Health Radio.
Even though you love your partner and the person you're in a relationship with, your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, when schedules get busy and everyone is stressed out, it sometimes can be difficult to show your appreciation or your gratitude for your partner. And I think it's so important in a relationship to make sure that you do that. And my guest today is Dr. Ramani Durvasula. She's licensed clinical psychologist and professor of psychology, and she lives in Los Angeles. So, Dr. Durvasula, why is it important to make sure that we show appreciation and gratitude in our relationships?
Because our relationships are so easy to take for granted. We are so careful to write thank you notes, often to people who don't even matter that much to us, just to follow the procedure, and yet we often take for granted those closest to us. Now, obviously, in a close relationship, there is that presumption, there's the back and forth, that there shouldn't be that heavy lifting, but sometimes we let it go too far, and in some ways, I think a relationship is like a garden. The flowers are going to grow even if you don't always take care of them, but leave them too long and they really are going to suffer. So a relationship needs care and feeding, just like any other living thing.
Well, I think that's such an important concept that you point out, because we do write thank you notes to people that don't even matter that much to us. And yet it's like taking for granted the people that you love. So what do you advise as the first best bit of advice to make sure that we're not taking advantage of those people?
It's so minuscule, but it's literally make sure at least once a day you do say thank you. It could be thank you for the littlest thing. Thanks for emptying the dishwasher. Thanks for taking out the trash. Thank you for whatever little thing that's done, because then it becomes a habit, and it becomes a back and forth habit. You find it doesn't feel artificial. Just once, thank you, because it feels. Sometimes I'll watch partners, and one's head will snap up and say, "What? You just said thank you?" We can get very easily accustomed to not being noticed and not being given gratitude to. So that's the simplest way to start. But also beyond that, this is where relationship mindfulness becomes really important. Notice the small stuff, obviously, and the big stuff, but notice the little things that they do. I think a lot of us just kind of go through our days with nobody ever noticing us, especially in our relationships. So when they go do that extra thing, I don't know what it may be in any relationship. It may be doing that task that's been put off for a while. It may be getting that special thing you wanted from the grocery store. Really take a moment. At the end of the day, I always say, I always have a 5 o'clock alarm set on my clock. I'm like, by now, I owe somebody some debt of gratitude. So let me reflect, and I'll reach out to whomever that is and say, thank you for just making my day and my life a lot easier. And I'm amazed at how often people are surprised by that. They're like, what? What did you just say? So I think that we can do this, not just in our close personal relationships, but in all of them. Children, family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. It just makes the world, again, a more flowered garden, in essence.
Well, I love that, a more flowered garden, but why is it difficult for some people? I mean, I am one of those people. I can say thank you to everybody for everything, but when it comes to my husband, I just assume he should be doing these things, and I don't thank him for them. Why is it difficult for some people to get those words out, to say you were right or thank you? Even sitcoms make jokes about that. When someone says you're right, and oh my God, I'm going to record that. I think my producers even did that to me one time, kept replaying it back to me. Why is it so hard for some people?
I think, again, in some ways, you raise a really important and interesting point, Melanie. We think, actually, our relationships are the one, it's almost, I always view them as the sweatpants zone. The one place we can just be sloppy and kind of get away with it. And so we almost feel, and I think, I hate to say it, we're almost socialized to say, don't give up too much territory in your relationships. If you're too appreciative, you may actually lose some of your power. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the words power and relationship falling in the same sentence, because they don't belong together. So I do think that we are often almost sometimes afraid of losing that power, and we also get into habits. I think with a partner, someone you're with day after day after day, we believe that the thank you is sort of built in. It's not. It's actually not. Everybody likes to be appreciated, and I find it really unfortunate that much of our appreciation often takes place outside of that space. Like I said, often coworkers or parents at the kids' school or something like that. I just think we get careless. And if I have to say, people say, why do relationships end? It tends not to be big-ticket stuff like affairs and embezzlement or anything like that. It tends to be carelessness that accumulates over the years. And to me, not apologizing is part of that. I just think it's a habit. It's like a bad habit. It's like eating badly or not exercising. And I think it's one people can break out of because it really pays dividends in, I think, what is the most important area of our health, which is our relationship.
How do
But
we
I also
break
think
out
it's
of that?
ego.
If you're a person who has trouble saying thank you or I'm sorry or you're right or any of those kinds of,
Yeah.
remarks, how do you stop doing that? How can you be somebody who says those things?
Well, for starters, like I said, I set that 5 o'clock alarm for myself. If by 5 o'clock, I'll always reflect on my day and say, someone did me a proper today, and I've got to reach out to them. And sometimes it's a partner, sometimes it's a child, a friend, whomever. But that requires me to almost go back through my day and realize how many people make my days possible, who make my days run easier. We seem to think we can all do it all. None of us are doing it all. We're all doing what we're doing and as much as we're doing because lots of other people come together just as we do that for others. So I say once a day, touch base with yourself. I also say use the dinner hour or some other time you're all together in the same place. Use that as part of your dinner conversation, whether it's just with a husband or a wife or your whole family, but use that as an opportunity to reach out. It can even be a phone call on the way to work or a text once you get in. But make that, as much as you brush your teeth, make sure you express that gratitude to your partner. It could be as simple as just thank you for being there. Thank you for being in my life, but more days than not, it's going to be something. So it becomes a daily practice. I also think it's some of the thank you hygiene our moms tried to teach us when we were kids. Write those thank you notes, whether they're thank you emails, thank you texts, thank you letters. Do it whatever way you need to do it. But it's at the end of the holidays right now. Everybody's sitting down and saying thank you for those gifts. Don't forget to do that because it sets you up in some ways for retaining that sense of gratitude. It's so easy to forget. Here we are, beginning of the year, starting our routines. Keep saying thank you multiple times a day. But like I said, I always have that gratitude alarm that I set every day at 5 o'clock. And it's my time to kind of rake back through my day and thank the people who lifted me up a little higher and got me through that day.
I think that's true, and not enough parents are teaching their children about thank you notes. And I make my children write thank you notes to each and every person that ever gives them a gift. I mean, if it's like my sister, they can usually get away with a phone call, but if it's anybody else, it's so important, but it's also important for those of us adults. Write thank you notes. When somebody does something nice, even if it's in an email, it's really important. Now, in this last minute and a half here, Dr. Durvasula, give us your best advice for that gratitude, for actually being thankful that we're in a relationship. There are so many lonely people out there. And we think to ourselves, oh, well, I would be better off if I didn't have this person or whatever. But then the thought of being out there in that singles world is terrifying. So give us your best advice on gratitude and appreciation of the people that we love because they're not always maybe going to be there.
I always say build gratitude into everything, and it almost spreads like a virus. I don't care if you're dealing with a clerk who just does one transaction for you, somebody who who might give you a space in line, or the people you live with. Build gratitude into every human interaction you have, because what it does is it forces you to take your breath, look up, and realize that this person, through their action, just made something possible for you. And just like we may wash our hands throughout the day or brush our teeth twice a day, saying thank you should become a habit. Start with everyone, and before you know it, you'll start saying thank you to the people who are most important, those who are close to you. It's very easy to take people for granted. It actually takes a little bit of work to pay attention to them and thank them for all they are to you.
Great advice, and I know that we will have you on again, Dr. Ramani Durvasula. Should I stay or should I go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. She's got so much good information, and you can see more about her at www.Ramani.com, and you can read more about her and her book. And this is just great information. That's what we're doing here. We give you great information that you can share with your friends and your loved ones and your colleagues. Put them on Facebook and share them on social media, because that's what makes us all learn together. We're getting this great information, so spread it around so we can all have a great new year. This is Melanie Cole. You're listening to Melanie Cole's Health Radio Show right here every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thanks for listening and stay well.